What is going on, guys? Today I bring you round 3 of my Chess Open 2023. This round I got paired up against a Portuguese player, Rafael Nogueira. Actually, I've played him before earlier on the journey to National Master. It was episode 19. I'll leave a card up here or up there, so you can watch it after this one or before. And yeah, it was a crazy game back in April 2022, I think. It was absolutely amazing game. I really recommend watching it. And we have another crazy and chaotic game 1 year and a half later. So let's see. I had the white pieces. I started with e4. My opponent went c6. I went d4, d5, and here I went for the advanced Caro-Kann. So basically, I found my opponent's accounts online on Chess and on chess.com, and I just prepared against the Caro-Kann with what I thought would be the best approach against him. And so okay, my opponent goes bishop f5. I go h4, the tile variation, very aggressive, very nice to play against the Caro-Kann. So here my opponent goes h6, which it's one of the options. You can either go h6 or h5, but the main problem of going with h6 is that now I get to play this variation which I enjoy a lot, which is g4, attacking the bishop, really aggressive. My opponent goes bishop e4 to attack this rook and provoke f3. Now he goes back to h7, and now I play this fantastic idea and pawn sacrifice e6. And yeah, this pawn sacrifice after f takes on e6 is just amazing for white, honestly, because it sort of weakens the king side here, these squares around the king side, and this pawn is kind of in the way of black's position. This bishop looks horrible, because how is this bishop gonna develop? It just seems stuck here. My opponent will have to try to get e5 through to play e6, or maybe even play g6 at some point to develop the bishop. So yeah, this position after f takes on e6 is actually pretty hard to play for black if you don't know what you're doing. My opponent took. I played bishop d3, we exchanged bishops, and now my opponent plays this move queen c7, which actually I prepared for against him. This is not a good move. Queen c7 is actually quite bad. First of all, I give this check on g6 with the queen, and now I was expecting my opponent to go king d8, which is the best move and pretty much the only move that I prepared against. And now I would play f4 here with the simple idea of going knight f3, knight e5, and this is just unbelievably dangerous for black. But my opponent surprised me with king d7, and I didn't really know what was the difference behind king d8 or king d7. And after thinking for like a minute, I decided, okay, I'll just play like I would do against king d8. So I just played f4 here. And apparently, for some reason, f4 is not as strong in this position as it was with king d8. Apparently here the computer wants me to play knight e2. I don't really understand why there is such a big difference between f4 here in this position and f4 in the other position. Honestly, I don't really understand what is the big deal, but okay, maybe someone in the comments can explain to me. But yeah, I still don't know. Looking at it. So okay, f4, and now my opponent gets c5 through. So yeah, here I played knight f3, just developing my pieces. Normally, my opponent plays knight c6 here, and I take on c5, you know, making use of this pawn not being you know, targeted after knight c6. So okay, here my opponent plays e5, which is the best move, and might not look like a pawn sacrifice at first, you know, I took, but it is a pawn sacrifice because you actually can't take here just yet, because you would lose a piece after queen f5 check. So yeah, this is a pawn sacrifice with the idea of playing e6, which is a very, very good move. So very nice find by my opponent. He was spending some time, of course, in the opening trying to figure out things, and I was playing rather quickly, trying to, you know, put pressure on him on the clock. But yeah, I mean, he completely outplayed me here. Let's go back a little bit. So after e5, I shouldn't take the pawn. It's a mistake to take the pawn, but I didn't really see this idea with sacrificing the pawn, e6, taking it. I didn't even stop to try to figure out if it was good or not. I just thought my opponent was just playing some random moves, honestly. I didn't really pay too much attention, but here apparently I can keep a good advantage with knight c3. But okay, he plays e6, very well played. Bishop f4, I thought that okay, I'm gonna try to defend this pawn, because this is the most important pawn here in the position. This central pawn on e5, giving me all that space. And here my opponent played queen a5 check, which, you know, I saw that he could do, of course. And here I decided to bring the bishop back to d2. I mean, out c3, but it didn't look good, because it looked like after bishop takes e5, it looks like I just win a piece with b4, but I saw that after b4, my opponent can actually sacrifice the knight here for the 2 pawns, and after pawn takes, queen takes, bishop d2, queen b2, I didn't like this position. I thought that this was way too dangerous. I calculated this and I thought, okay, I mean, I'm just in big trouble here. It doesn't look good at all. If I play, you know, bishop c3 here, I just lose, because my opponent can play queen c1 check, and he's gonna pick up the rook. Also, queen f2 check would also destroy me here, losing the knight here. And yeah, I also couldn't play knight c3 because of queen a1 check. And yeah, he's gonna pick up he picked up the rook. Now I have to play knight b1 to not lose another rook. So yeah, I mean, I saw this and I was like, I'm not gonna play this. Apparently after bishop d2, queen b2, I can actually play queen d3 and still keep some sort of advantage, because if my opponent takes here on a1 after queen b3, the queen is kind of trapped here. So yeah, that is a detail that I missed. So okay, I just played a bishop back to d2. Now that my opponent left the pressure on e5, my opponent took with the queen here. And yeah, I just played knight c3. I just wanted to finish my development and castle, and I thought, okay, if I can finish the development and castle, I should be fine, and I should still have some sort of advantage here. Okay, my opponent attacked the queen with knight e7, makes sense. I play queen f7, trying to keep pressure along the king side, you know, pinning this knight, stuff like that. And yeah, here it's a critical moment of the game. Actually, my opponent stopped and thought for a while. I was also thinking. I was spending more time now, a little bit more time. I wasn't just pre-moving everything. And yeah, I was afraid that my opponent would do something like knight d8 here. I would have to go queen f4 and now knight g6. I was kind of afraid of this, because I would lose a lot of tempos with my queen. I would have to go back to g3, and I thought, okay, my opponent is finally finishing his development, and I didn't really think play this. My opponent actually made a huge mistake here, a huge blunder that I saw you know, in advance. Thankfully, he played d4, and yeah, d4 looks extremely strong because, you know, if I move my knight somewhere, let's say knight e4, here I lose the pawn on c2. He's threatening to take here on b2, and things are very, very dangerous for me. But thankfully, after d4, I already you know, calculated before he played d4 that I could just cast. Very nice move, double exclam here, brilliant piece sacrifice here. And the point is simple: the king is still on the d file, and if my opponent takes the piece on c3, I can just play the simple bishop e3 with a discovered check on the d file, and now this queen is gonna get captured. You know, the best move here would be to just you know, block the check with the queen, and after something like this, my opponent can't even take with the knight because it's pinned, so he had to take with the pawn, and this is completely winning for white. So yeah, after long castles, my opponent, you know, realized that he messed up, and yeah, I was very confident here. My opponent played knight e5, which is another blunder. But yeah, the position was already very difficult, and it's hard to you know, after you blunder, to keep the composure and you know, keep your head up and try to, you know, find the best move. And yeah, here the move was very difficult for black to keep some sort of you know, chances, which was king c7. Just leaving the d file makes some sense, but after 94, with, you know, tempo on the queen, you would have to play something like queen d5, keeping the e6 pawn protected. And yeah, this just looks very unpleasant, like knight d6 here, and just looks like black is gonna get absolutely destroyed here. And yeah, it's very tough to play this position already. So yeah, after long castles, my opponent blundered with 95, and this is you know, a tactical mistake. You know, it looks like my opponent can just win this pawn on e5, but after knight takes on e5 check, queen takes on e5, I can actually just play bishop f4, and amazing move, another very, very, very strong move. And the point is that, okay, I'm attacking the queen, my opponent has to, you know, to keep an eye on d4 and move the queen. So my opponent does natural queen f6. It looks like an amazing move because, you know, you're threatening the bishop, you're threatening a queen trade. So yeah, it looks like everything is fine for black. And I mean, black is still up a pawn, so if he can trade queens, he would be doing very well. But here I have the brilliant piece sacrifice again. Rook takes d4 check, sacrificing the rook, and after queen takes on d4, which is pretty much forced. If my opponent doesn't take the rook, he's gonna get mated. Opponent is forced to take the rook, and after queen takes on d4, I bring the other rook. And yeah, this is just brilliant moves by me here. Queen takes on d1, my opponent has to, you know, trade the queen for two rooks, and here I take with the king on d1. And I mean, normally the two rooks actually are very good against the queen, but the issue is that in this position, I mean, my queen is very active, putting a lot of pressure on my opponent's position, and these rooks are very, very passive and very uncoordinated. This bishop is still not playing, so yeah, I mean, this is just the material. Actually, black is doing better in material, but I mean, positionally wise, I mean, I'm just completely winning. It's just a matter of some moves here, of converting. So okay, here at this point, I still had like an hour left on the clock, which was very nice. My opponent had like 15 minutes. He was very low on the clock already. So yeah, I was feeling very confident, and I thought, okay, I just need to make a few more moves and I win. So okay, king d1 here, rook d8, bringing a rook into the game. I played king back to c1 because yeah, I mean, I just wanna to keep it simple here. My opponent plays g5, trying to open up this rook, you know, but I didn't want to take on g5, so I just played bishop e5, gaining a tempo on the rook. My opponent plays rook g8, and I play h5, making sure that my opponent doesn't have any counterplay, just locking everything up, you know. Very nice. Here my opponent plays king c8, which it's a sad move, but what else is he gonna do? Queen takes on e6 with check. My opponent plays rook d7, and here, yeah, here I was trying to figure out a way to knock him out, but yeah, I didn't see any like winning blow. I just played bishop f6 with the simple idea of taking on e7 and then taking the rook, but okay, my opponent didn't really fall for that. He played this move, uh, bishop g7, and it's actually probably the trickiest move and probably the best move that my opponent could have actually made in this position. And yeah, here I kind of fall into his trap. I thought for a while, but I said, okay, I mean, my opponent is trying to trap me, but I'm gonna fall into the trap because I didn't really see any other way to play this position. Yeah, my opponent's point is that okay, if I take on g7 here, he's gonna take back with the rook, and now, I mean, I could take this pawn with queen takes on h6, but all of a sudden, like, my opponent starts, you know, coordinating his pieces, and I don't know if it is. I didn't want this type of position where, I mean, he still has this knight, and now his rooks are well placed, well connected, and it looks like very hard for me to actually, you know, start moving my pawns and creating chances. So I didn't really like the look of this, even though it's still winning. So okay, bishop takes g7 was not what I wanted. I thought about knight e4 as well, but yeah, I don't know, this didn't look satisfying enough. I don't know why, but probably this would just end the game, because what is my opponent gonna do? He's kind of stuck here, and yeah, I'm kind of threatening to go knight d6 check, or something like bishop takes on e7 and then knight d6 check. And if my opponent takes here on f6, I have this fork. So yeah, knight e4 was probably the best move I could have done here, but I didn't play it. And also knight d5, it's also a cheeky cheeky and nice move. The point being that you know, if my opponent takes here with the knight, I take the rook with check. If my opponent takes the knight here on d5, I can just take here on e7, or maybe just take the knight with the queen. I think I think both moves work well. So yeah, but yeah, I ended up playing bishop takes on e7, which, you know, allows the trick that my opponent played, which is rook e8 here, and we reach this critical position, which, you know, my opponent is threatening to win the piece back with interest, you know, and yeah, at this point in the game, I had like 45 minutes maybe, and my opponent had 30 seconds literally. He was playing on increment, and you could see in his face that, okay, he just played this last trick, but he was eating some something, I don't know. And yeah, he was just like already accepting defeat in his posture, and I was like, okay, I mean, I just need to find one more move and win this, like. And here I stopped. and I thought for like 15 minutes calculating stuff, and I calculated pretty much all the moves. And the first one that I calculated that just looked like straight up the best was knight d5. Okay, I calculated that if my opponent took here on e7, I mean, this would be easy. I could just take here and win. Not complicated. If my opponent tried to run with the king, I mean, I could just take the rook, so it doesn't work at all. And what I didn't like about knight d5 was that I didn't find an answer to bishop f8. And yeah, this just looks like black is gonna take back the piece with interest, and doesn't look clean at all for white. Because I mean, what do I do now? He has 3 pieces attacking my bishop, and you know, the bishop is pinned, and I only have 2 pieces looking at the bishop. So yeah, I mean, here I don't know, it's kind of tough to say to do a move for white here. Let's make I don't know, a move like c3, just kind of a waiting move, you know. I didn't like the fact that my opponent could just take here on e7. I would take back with the knight, he'd take back with the rook, and even here taking here on h6. I didn't like this because this didn't feel that clean anymore, because I mean, these rooks are very well positioned, and okay, I have a passed pawn, but will I be able to push it with only a queen to support it? I didn't like this. So yeah, I couldn't really find something good here, but apparently this is the best move, knight d5, because I can play queen g6, which I didn't see in calculation. And yeah, the point is that now if my opponent takes on e7 with the bishop, the rook is hanging with check, so this doesn't work for my opponent. And okay, if he takes with one of his rooks, I can at least win the exchange, and this is way better. This is way better. Now I would be completely fine with my position. Now that it doesn't have the 2 rooks, the bishop and the rook don't coordinate as well against the queen, and now it's gonna be probably easy to convert this. But yeah, I didn't find queen g6 in my calculation at all. So yeah, this would be a very clean move, because now I'm actually threatening to win the rook, so he has to do something about it. And yeah, the best move is apparently to just you know, give up the exchange. So yeah, I missed this very important detail. Calculate was knight b5, and I started looking at this move, and it started looking quite good, because if my opponent plays bishop f8 here, I have knight d6 check here, which just wins the game on the spot, because I'm picking up this rook. And you know, I realized that my opponent couldn't take with this rook because of the pin, and yeah, this just looked fantastic for me. And yeah, I didn't see a refutation for this. And after 15 minutes, I decided, okay, I mean, I'm just gonna play knight b4, and all of a sudden I play knight b5, I right move, and my opponent just lights up. His eyes just light up, and he's like, oh my god, and he just takes the bishop with the rook, and I'm like scratching my face. I can't believe it. I missed that he could take with this rook, and now knight d6 check doesn't do anything. I'm just losing. King c7. I'm just lost. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. And yeah, after rook takes on e7 here, I just lost almost all my advantage, and I couldn't believe that I missed this. I completely missed this this capture, which is so basic. My heart just fell on the ground. I couldn't believe it. I really thought that I was just having a nightmare, and you know, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I blundered this game like this. I just was completely winning, and I just completely missed this simple thing. And I just didn't know what to do. I had so much time on the clock. My opponent was so happy all of a sudden because he realized that I blundered. And my opponent still had 1 minute on the clock. I had like 35 minutes maybe still, and 30 or something like that. That's a lot of time on the clock, and I was like, I can't believe it. And after like 1 minute, you know just I couldn't hide my emotions. I was like so starstruck. I just played queen g8 check. My opponent blocks with the rook, and yeah, here apparently I can still keep some advantage with knight takes a7 check, and after something like king c7 I can go back to b5 check, and here the king needs to keep protecting the rook, so he would have to go king c8, and now I could play queen c4 check, king b8, and okay, I'm up 2 pawns, but it's far from easy. But I was in complete shock, and I couldn't even calculate knight takes a7 check. I didn't even like think that worked, so I just, on the panic, I played queen c4 check, and now it just plays king b8, and we reach a similar position, but now I don't even have this extra pawn here. Yeah, I just didn't capture the pawn on e7, and here, I mean, I can't believe we reached this position, and now like black is the one that's playing for a win, honestly, because he's just gonna try to double here on the second rank or even on the first rank, and he's already threatening checkmate here on e1. So yeah, I was completely in shock, and I had to to take a deep breath to try to find strength to keep going after this huge blunder. My opponent was still on the clock. He had like 1 minute or 1 minute and a half, and we get a bonus time on move 40, so it was still move 33. So I still told myself that I needed to keep playing fast, at least for the next 6 moves, to try to trick him somehow in time trouble. So I just play c3, avoiding the checkmate on e1. My opponent plays a6, kicking out the knight. Very sad move, but it had to be done. Now my opponent plays bishop e5, trying to put the bishop on a more active square. I play king c2, starting to bring the king into the game. My opponent plays bishop f4, nice move, and yeah, he's already threatening some infiltrations here on the second rank, and I thought, I mean, this is completely a disaster, and I can't believe what I did to my position, honestly. I'm trying to fight for equality. I really thought that I was in big trouble and I could lose this game if I wasn't careful. So after bishop f4, I played this crazy move, but it had to be done. Like king b3. Now my king is on b3. My knight is on e3. My queen on c4. This is crazy. I mean, what is going on? What did I do in just like 5 moves? This is incredible. But there was still a couple of moves until move 40. Here my opponent plays a rook d2. Well played. Just trying to put these 2 rooks on the second rank and just start picking up these pawns. Very tough. Here I give a check on g8, goes king a7, and now I go queen f8, trying to create threats. Now I'm attacking the rook, and I'm also attacking the pawn on h6, and yeah, we are on move 39. My opponent plays rook e6, defending the pawn on h6 here, and we finally reach move 40. I play knight c4, attacking the rook, and here my opponent just brings the rook back, brings the rook to d5, and now we reach move 40 and we get an extra 30 minutes on the clock. And here, okay, I mean, I just got up, I went to the bathroom, I washed my face, I just, I just looked myself in the mirror and I was like, I mean, this is horrible, but you can't really give up. Like, you have to keep on fighting and you have to keep trying to bring the game back and try to win. And yeah, it's not over till it's over. You just made a huge blunder, but nothing is stopping your opponent from also doing a huge blunder. I had to motivate myself to keep going, keep fighting, and I wasn't just gonna give up. So yeah, I came back from the bathroom. I spent like 4 minutes or 5 minutes there just trying to compose myself, trying to think of how I could keep going uh, after such a tragedy. And okay, come back and I play a4, rook b5 check. Here my opponent played rook back to d7, and now okay, now that he covered the 7th rank, now we can actually play b5, and he's probably threatening to play b5. So here I play queen c8, trying to stop b5 indirectly because I'm attacking this rook, trying to complicate the position as much as possible, trying to find some way to infiltrate and to create problems for my opponent. Rook e7 here, nice move, just connecting the rooks on the e file. Here I play a5. Okay, a5, just trying to lock his king in the box here on a7. And this pawn can be useful in the future because my knight might land on b6 with some checkmating ideas. So I was starting to feel progress, and I definitely think my opponent he messed up a little bit, not usually, but he messed up a little bit, because now okay, my position looks like he has some potential, but it's still very, very solid for black. Okay, we both had time on the clock right now because we had the bonus time. So yeah, it was really just trying to outplay my opponent. It wasn't really just trying to blitz him or anything like that. So after a5, my opponent plays bishop e3. And okay, of course I don't want to trade my knight. This knight is the only piece that can actually win me the game in combination with the queen. If I just trade the knight, I mean, I can never win that position, that's for sure. Okay, my opponent is trying to protect the b6 square, which makes a lot of sense, and just this diagonal in general makes a lot of sense. Here I play queen d8. My opponent plays bishop c5, which is a good move, just stabilizing everything, making sure that this diagonal is still in his control, making sure that the rook is not hanging here. But I play queen d5. Simple move, just putting pressure on the bishop here on c5, which is unprotected. And here my opponent plays bishop f2, which is a big blunder. And yeah, this actually loses the game again. And I actually, before I played queen d5, I actually saw that he couldn't play this move for a reason. And here my opponent would have to play something like rook c6, which doesn't feel natural because you're disconnecting the rooks again. But this bishop, it's really important here on c5, and you'll see why in a second. But okay, when I saw that my opponent played bishop f2, I just got so energized. I got so like, oh my god, I can't believe he blundered. And I just immediately played knight d6, and this move just wins the game on the spot. It's a crazy one. And yeah, that's why you have to keep knights in these positions. They are so tricky, and I mean, fortunately for me, everything works here for me. There's no defense. My opponent is gonna lose an exchange. Rook e5 here to attack my queen. Actually, here I could go into this. I could play knight c8 check, and after king b7. Here I can take the rook, and after rook takes queen, we get this endgame, which is just winning for white. And I would gladly go into this because, okay, I'm up an extra pawn on the queen side, but my king is more active, and this knight will be amazing picking up these pawns on h6 and g5, and it's really sad. That what is my opponent gonna do? How is he gonna prevent this check on c8? So the only way to really prevent, I mean, also just want to point out that my pawn of course can't move the rook off the e file because the other rook would be hanging. So okay, my pawn just plays the logical king b8, avoiding the fork on c8. But now everything just works out because of the knights. Here I have knight f5, gaining a tempo on the rook here on e7. And okay, what is my opponent gonna play? He either has to move the rook or, you know, threaten my queen here on d5. The problem is that if my opponent just plays rook e8, you know, keeping a vision on the other rook and dodging this attack, I can actually just fork him here with knight g7, and I'm winning an exchange. Also, if my opponent tries to attack my queen here, I can just give a check here, gain a tempo. Here my opponent played rook e8, and after knight g7 he tried rook e5, but as I said, queen d6 check, king a7, and now I pick up the exchange, and this position is just what I wanted. It's just completely winning. Now I just take the pawn on h6, and I'm up just way too much material. This rook and this bishop don't really work well together, and it's just a matter of technique again. And you know, I was still very cautious because I was not gonna let this win escape once again. Like, no way, I just have to just finish the game, you know. I can't let this one go. Okay, queen takes on h6. My opponent tries rook e5, attacking the pawn on a5. I do queen f6, you know, attacking the rook, attacking the bishop. He plays bishop g3. I give a check on b6, king b8 here by my opponent, queen d8 check. I was gaining some time with these checks, and now after king a7, I just push the pawn. And yeah, this pawn, there's no stopping this pawn. I don't care if he takes here or gives me a check here. I don't care. I'm just gonna push this pawn, queen, and it's GG's. Okay, my opponent gives a check, king c2 is square, but it's not covered enough. Oh, one piece is not enough to cover that square. So h7, bishop g7, queen h8, takes, and yeah, after rook takes on a5, there's no chance that my opponent can hold this at all. I just play queen d8 here, rook b5, and after b3 my opponent lost on time. His flag fell. So yeah, he lost on time, and I win this game. What a crazy game. I still can't believe it that I made a comeback after just giving the game away. It was crazy. 61 moves, and wow, I couldn't believe it. I was like, I can't believe I escaped. And if you saw the last if you saw our first game, I also, like, I drew the game when I was down a knight. Um, yeah, that was crazy. I was in a king in pawn endgame, completely lost. I managed to trick him and to draw that game. So yeah, and here again I stole like a draw from him. So yeah, I mean, poor guy, honestly. Like, he got super screwed, super unlucky in both games, but it is what it is. Chess, as I said, is brutal. Yeah, what a game, what a video. Like, I'm just tired from talking so much, and yeah, I need a break. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this marathon of the game, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. So yeah, stay tuned. like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. Bye bye.